Hello ladies and gents, I am Nother Neter and welcome back to From the Depths, Nother Neter playthrough, the community campaign. First up, I would like to congratulate all the vehicles which participated in the previous episode. They all performed absolutely fantastically, as although they did lose against the Crossbones force, they did incredibly well, and bearing in mind that the entirety of that force was 6 times 15k at the absolute maximum, the Crossbone, I think it's at 180k in its own right. So the fact that it had a full supporting force, I don't mind the fact that they were basically wiped out. So I was kind of expecting that as soon as I saw the spawn, and the fact that they did so well and, well, even disabling, heavily damaging the vehicles was really very impressive. But it did highlight a couple of issues, and that is, for that episode, I was mainly focusing on the single force, and that is not something I want to be doing all the time. So I'm going to be looking at doing like a division idea. So what this will do is that we'll have around about divisions of maybe 3 or so craft, and I'll be sending around in like groups of 3 or 4 divisions, and then when it comes to a combat, multiple, well, either one or multiple of those divisions can be pulled in at a time. So I'll probably end up focusing the divisions having some sort of counter, so like anti-air, like submarines, whatever. So we'll be creating a new division this episode, and the first design, as you've probably seen, is this one, Downtown's USS Beloridan. And this is just a fairly simple sort of craft here. Interesting, it has active radar and why didn't it have the 90-degree radar? Whatever. So it's a fairly simple little boat. What's the intakes? It does use squash rounds, and I believe it's also got a smallish array of missiles on it as well. Yes. So I'm not expecting this to do tremendously well. It's fairly small, but it is also a slightly cheaper design, and its a low signal profile will also mean that it actually turns out to be a rather effective craft, due to the similar thing in like from the Timmy in the HMS Timmy previously, is that it was actually able to avoid a lot of shots just because it was such a low profile target to the enemy. And those missiles and hedge rounds are actually doing a decent amount of damage, decent rate of fire, and yes, the missiles also do quite well, as the missiles from the Thunder last episode did a huge amount of damage with their EMP component, though I did kind of misinformingly say that most of them were from the Timmy. Any of the EMP ones seen were actually from the Thunder. Then from Morton, you have a few nice little designs from Morton, though only one is within the tier 1 bracket, and that is the Battlus. This is a wooden based hull, some incredibly long torpedoes there, a lump of lead at the back, and then what appears to be a rather meaty fragmentation Gatling gun at the top. This is another design sitting incredibly low in the water, so it will also again be an incredibly low profile target. So send this against the Kalmar and see how it performs. It's got this big Gatling gun there, just slowly but surely shredding through the outside components, and then the long torpedoes, which is probably going to be its main cause of damage, but it's whether or not they can even lock on target at this relatively short range. I need to remember to spawn this in at long range, because yeah, those torpedoes have actually lost their target. So let's just destroy all vehicles and then spawn in the Battlus over at a longer range over here, say. And then again send against the Kalmar. I just want to see just roughly what these torpedoes do to a target. So they are fairly slow firing. Yes, so the torpedoes are actually when it's longer range, and then it turns to fire the Gatling gun. The Gatling gun will definitely be good against any air targets we face, particularly with the fragmentations there. Here come the torpedoes, and they should do just stupid amounts of damage. Yes. Knock each other slightly off course though, so a couple of those did unfortunately miss, because the other torpedoes, when they explode, they do push each other around a little bit. Also, the target was damaged there. The Gatling gun though is really rather impressive. Is it, are they actually belt feeds? So will it run out? Oh wait, no, they're actually normal ones there. So this actually won't have any issues. Thanks, that is incredible. I thought this was actually going to be a belt feed, so it's actually able to maintain this rate of fire. That is going to be quite something to behold in our forces, though similarly its actual ammunition consumption is going to be equally high. It has a lot of ammo makers there, and if we aren't able to maintain a good supply of materials for that craft, it will run out, and then we'll be in a bit of a problem because, well, that will stop firing. And the missiles are very expensive, and yeah, you get the idea. And the third design in this force is from Nobake. Where's Nobake? Alphabetical. There we go. It is the MBKS AD1 Imp, the 15K one. This is probably going to be, out of the three, probably a slightly larger target, though as it settles down, it is still a relatively small target profile, even if it is a big block of wood. And that's more what I'm sort of designing this force around. So I might swap this one out for the Timmy. So the three designs in this division will have that very low target profile. So this does have lambs though, which is something pretty useful. Looks like they are actually a one Q lamb system. Maybe it's not something I have ever utilised. I've seen the use of a 0Q lamb system from Razul's. I am probably going to be utilising those in the future. So it's just bring this down to see where that lamb system is. Oh, it's a very small lamb system. Still, oh no, it's a 2Q. It can stop some things. It would be fine against missiles, but against APS weapons it will have a little bit of difficulty. Still, any lambs is better than none, and we have actually got a very short amount of lambs in our systems and craft, which does make it very, very prone to damage from basically everything. The same goes for torpedo defenses. We barely have any torpedo defense. We've got a couple of anti-surface ones, and this is probably the best vehicle we have for taking out torps, should they come in at an angle we can aim at for it, because it does have that passive sonar underneath the waterline there. Those three designs are going to be in there, probably in their own little division, and that should allow us to do, as I said, this sort of division idea. I will be shuffling everything around. Another design which we will be utilising though, and that is the Fire Arrow by Chivo. This is a kamikaze weapon. It goes high, and eventually it should actually lock onto the target and then destroy it. It doesn't seem to be able to cope with a Kelmar. Let's try one of the airships, something the Atlas. Load in the Fire Arrow. Again, why isn't it not actually engaging with the target? Seems that something might have broken something with the Fire Arrow. Bit of a shame, because I was wanting a actual nuke for dealing with the crossbones in this episode. So what I'll just have to do, I'll have to utilise my own. So instead of the Fire Arrow, I'm going to be utilising one of my designs, and that is a micro nuke, or sperm nuke, as it is colloquially known, and it's basically called that for fairly obvious reasons once you see it spawned in. It is only 500 materials, and there it goes. It heads towards its target, and then once it gets going, it whittles towards its destination. It's going a little bit slow, but eventually will go quicker, and then detonate upon penetration of its target. And it obviously leaves a very big hole, which, for its cost, is a big hole, and it is so small. It will also fly as well once it gets going, as it is. There we go. Boom! Just takes a little moment for the, well, power to be transferred over to it, I guess. And for 500 materials, these things are immensely powerful, because look how fast they eventually do go once they home in on their target. They're great fun. And they are incredibly cheap. You know, actually, at some point, I might actually build a vehicle to spawn these actually within combat and send them out as, well, usable weapons. But for the moment, I am just going to be playing the campaign normally. So, let us load up Save 1 and get into that campaign. So currently, we're on full retreat with Fleet 1. The Lodge Dart is doing well, keeping everything repaired up. But currently we are a little bit low on resources. I thought I had more, but I thought I had 80,000. But oh no, that was before I built up the forces, wasn't it? No, oh well. So let's just jump on the reserve force, and then spawn in the new designs we'll be utilising this episode. I did forget to actually load them up properly, so they might load without ammo. Bit of a problem. Still, so we have a new force here. We'll just join these together. They could be their own little force there. And I'm going to be renaming these other forces. So, this one, rather than reserve, this is going to be the Hammer Time. And I'm basically just renaming them in relation to their actual focus. Well, the de facto flagship, which is essentially going to be the higher tiered version, or essentially the most powerful one in the force. So the Fleet 1, we can actually select it. This was going to be Thunder, because Thunder did survive very rather nicely. The other designs were good, and are definitely worthwhile, and really? I didn't think that was a thing. Let's repair up all of these though. Let's just scrap these to blueprints so I can actually move this force around. The reserve force is going to move up, but this one I want to essentially have the split up into its constituent parts. So what would I say? Probably the dolphin, the responder. So we've got the Mant, the Aetios. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's only 5. There's only really 5 designs in this one, which does make it a little bit difficult to, you know, split it up. But I guess I could have the surface group and the other one, but I want to keep the forces to be the actual users there. This is a lot easier with Fleet 2, because we have the surface component and the air component. So we have the faculty, Brunhild, and the interceptor won't be, but that will work well. So Fleet 2, this is going to be probably the interceptor fleet, or division. I'm going to be trying to remember to call them divisions from now on. Then we have Brunhild, the Brunhild force moving up there. Well, Panthers fleet is heading towards the white flares. I didn't know this was a thing, but apparently so. There's been some decent repairs affected on these already. Probably the Cramble and the Timmy go down. Go for the Brawler, Beschutz and all that to be repaired up first of all. It's blockaded. Did they actually fight? No, I think they just move in to that location. I've never seen that happen before, but then I don't normally lose too many battles, so there is that. Oh, one other thing is the change they made here. It was recommended that I don't keep these maximum. I take them down to 80%, and the reason for that is that if there is a vehicle which does have excess, it won't try and keep everything, it will actually share it. I know admittedly a lot of these designs are won't share, but if they do have excess ammo, then they will actually share it properly. So there's a good reason to utilise that down to 80%. So a good little tip there. What spy satellite? Brunhild, move over here because I need you to take on that force. The Sea Viper and Scuttle Guns, these are going to be taken on by Interceptor. The Interceptor division is going to move in and take these guys out. Interceptor there. The Gloom though is going to be the main thing, so we're going to have that close. We then have the Shield Draft and probably the Grenadier behind the Gloom, and I'm going to jump on the Gloom so we can actually utilise this battle properly. And so the battle begins, and immediately the Gloom just races straight in towards its target, and the target is dead, completely annihilated in a very quick fashion. It takes a little moment to unmount from the target, and then immediately crashes into the next target, which appears to have already been destroyed, but for good measure it rams it anyway. So there I did actually capture the Scuttle Gun. That did give me some more resources. So, as I thought, the Interceptor, the Gloom, is actually going to be very useful for getting a lot of resources, though it does feel a little bit exploited, I will say. Remove it, say, from the group if it does get a little bit too ridiculously powerful, much like I did with the plane. Actually, let's attack this force here with Brunhild. It is at a long range. And I forgot to upgrade these designs. I had some more updates, so I need to go through all the updates because there were some which I forgot to apply. So I'm going to do that after this battle. Remind me? Of course you can't. It's going to give us a bit of an indication as to how well we perform at long-range engagements. And so yes, long-range engagements are always a little bit of a problem because, well, they're generally good for players because a lot of the faction designs are not designed to really, well, have the range of, well, much near the full distance. Like the missiles, they're out of range, but unfortunately, the faculty did crash into the ground. It either didn't raise up fast enough or just is working on altitude and crashed into the wall. Thankfully, range is decent now and our cannons are able to fire, because initially at the long range the shells were basically expending before they reached the target, so they were doing minimal to no damage. The two frantic chickens though have been annihilated there. It's just leaving little Nessie on the ground, it seems. So let's just remove the faculty from the battle so that it doesn't take any more damage, and, well, prevent the repair costs. And I'm going to try and remember to do that more readily, though I will admit I do forget a lot because it isn't something I am familiar doing on a regular basis. The Nessie does not stand a chance against the Brunhild in its bombing run configuration there. It seems the faculty had a friendly cuddle with the land, and so fortunately did lose a lot of its material, well, a lot of its structure there. Thankfully, though, it's not too much of an issue, since the Brunhild, wow, was able to fly over the terrain and perform some very nice manoeuvres. But I do think the Brunhild actually has an update. So let's just update you. Yeah, I thought I had a version 30 somewhere. Maybe I've forgotten to download it. That does happen. Still, we do have some other versions of the this force. Yes, there were a couple of upgrades across our forces which we did need to apply. Right, so I've gone and attacked this one. So there's Drake, Vanguard, Retrofit. So I moved into that territory to engage these guys and make them come around. So if I attack this, I'm also going to be attacking the White Flayers, which just seems like a really bad idea. The Interceptor group isn't really in range, so let's go with the Brunhild and Faculty. The Drake column isn't exactly the most deadly thing, and we have taken on them before, particularly the fact that they end up blowing themselves up with the first shot because they shoot each other in the back. That is what happened last time. This time, nope, not such a thing happened. So they managed to launch all their cannons and all their missiles in a quick succession, and actually a few of the hits do get through and damage the Brunhild there. And the faculty, unfortunately, is a little bit low and decides to ram one of the targets straight away, destroying the Drake, or at least knocking it out of the sky, but it then gets hit by one of the missiles and loses a huge chunk of its internals there. And then another one also strikes it for good measure. Brunhild, though, is dancing around to the edge and appears to have a dirty great big hole in the side of it. I jump Rambot onto the faculty to try and get it back repaired, though there's a lot of components there and I'm not entirely sure I have quite enough to be able to repair it in, well, a timely manner. The Brunhild, though, just is carrying on, orbiting around and destroying the rest of the Drakes, but with the Drakes having been damaged, they are now going into rather annoying death spirals. And in fact, they're going in annoying death spirals up into space, which does mean that the Brunhild basically doesn't have a line of fire on them, because its weapons are focused on the underside. Same for the faculty, to be perfectly honest, but the faculty is actually grounded, so I'm just going to jump on that and take out the design right next to it, capture that, and then utilise the repairs to try and get the faculty up and running again. Unfortunately, one thing I didn't pay attention to was the fact that the faculty was then moving and then crashed into the ground nearby as well, which was a really annoying thing to happen. Still, the Brunhild eventually, well, with some weird janky spinning movement, eventually gets its guns on the upper side and shoots down the rest of the Drakes. Well, that didn't go anywhere near as well as I was hoping. Neither the Brunhild nor the faculty performed particularly well there. The faculty took a nasty hit and was disabled fairly readily, despite its improvements to the missile defences, though some of the Deep Water Guard now do use radar, active radar seekers. I can't remember what the Drake uses. And the Brunhild, it does have an issue if anything goes above it, so I need to ensure that when utilising the Brunhild division, they are essentially a bomber force and can only be utilised in that role. If I need any anti-air, I will need to utilise, well, some of the actual surface fleets in the force here, because otherwise, well, Brunhild is not good for that task. The whole division idea is not set in stone, so although I am trying to keep things fairly similar, it's just so that we, well, ideally when we had a system like the Drakes that we could send a anti-air group against it, I thought that maybe Air Forces would be able to do it, but apparently not. Those Drakes did a big number on us. What we're facing here, ton of hoplites, an absolute ton of hoplites, yikes. I'm also just practicing having a dedicated setup rather than actually just doing things, well, individually per battle. So we'll see how it goes. I'll just jump on the Manta and begin the battle. The types of combat I want to try and do is a bit more overview, and if we do have big battles, to, well, maybe pause the game and adjust like that rather than just having it all in real time. But this one I think will mainly just be able to do it as more of a pure overview. Yeah, so I'm trying to do a few different styles of showing combat, just try and make things a little bit more cinematic and observe how things are going on with the battles. And sitting there, without this overview, I might have missed the fact that the Manta there got completely smashed by several torpedoes, but otherwise survived quite handily. The Swordfish is doing well and is firing down at the Manta, and the Dolphin is spinning around, doing quite well at shooting down all these little planes. One interesting point I am noticing is that the Manta is, well, it's doing fine. It took several hits and took out its targets really rather well, and the torpedoes there destroying the Sunfish, I think it is. And now the Manta, those shots are actually coming from the Manta, are shooting down the hoplites. I really wasn't expecting this. I was expecting, you know, the Responder and the Aetios to shoot those down. You can see the blue traces of the Responder, and then, yes, the green traces coming from the Manta, destroying the hoplites, because, well, it only requires 1 or 2 hits of the Manta's gun. So I'm actually confirming, like, really, is this actually the Manta destroying these? Yes, it is. The Manta is doing a huge number on these little hoplites. So congratulations to its teammates actually equipping inter-vehicle transmitters, allowing the Manta to lock on its targets in the air, because without that inter-vehicle transmitters it wouldn't be able to see where the hoplites were. I don't believe it has any radar buoys, so it can't do anything regarding that. The last couple of designs getting shot up by a combination of the Aetios, the Manta, and the dirty great big dirt round from the Richard Astley's design there. I have got an upgraded version for the to replace the Responder and the Dolphin. I might use that, though. To be fair, we haven't really got much in the way of materials at the moment. I thought we had a lot more than we actually do. Let's respawn in the outpost, get that back up and running. So that will actually give us a nice amount of resources. What is it? Growth. So it doesn't have a, only has a few thousand, but that is a few thousand more than we currently have. So I'm going to make a couple more changes, and from Chuckmerk, who did the Responder and the Dolphin there, over these designs, we are going to be replacing that with the Super Heavy Responder class patrol boat. So it is really just a large version of the patrol boat, which is quite cool. I do like the concept of just making such a small little wooden boat just a lot bigger, and I think it's just a lot bigger round. It's around the same. It is just a lot bigger sabot gun, so really quite a cool little neat concept. So very glad to have that. And let's just see quickly how well it performs, because I don't think we'll actually see it spawned in completely during the actual battle. And wow, that is a big gun. Big spam Gatling sabot gun. Yep, that is going to completely annihilate quite a lot of things, and it's already cored through the AI. That is really very impressive. I know the Kalmar is not the most robust design, but it is impressive nevertheless. So we're going to be utilising that, and then from Skullsploder, who gave us the Aetios and the Silent and the Run, I'm going to be getting rid of those and replacing them with the Condor, which is actually the carrier which I had previously. So it's a small little carrier, and then it comes with 3 of these little drones there, which is really quite cool. So they will be able to do quite nicely together. I think the Condor itself is like ammunition supply and stuff. I'm hoping that these 3 little drones have all got themselves different actual locations and spawn locations, so it will actually be able to, not crash into each other, but it has looks like they might actually all be set the same height, so we could have them crashing into each other. But together, they're giving a nice little anti-air barrage of those small guns, so which will be very effective against the Deepwater Guard. And you see here, they're just tearing off the light wooden armour the Deepwater Guard have. And they're great against balloons and all sorts, so the big problem is that they crash into each other. So maybe these need to be adjusted so that the 3 flight paths are different, so to help reduce that chance of them actually crashing into each other once they're all targeting the same thing. Still be nicer in the campaign. That's going to be on the Hammer Time Force, so the Dolphin is going, and the Responder is going. So it leaves the Manta, the Waveblade, and the Hammer Time, which, to be honest, this actually sounds quite a nice fleet. And then we'll actually have a more anti-air focused wing as well. So that will be the Condor and its associated light planes. And then from Chuckmerk, we have the Super Heavy Responder. These are technically all named the same, so I'm sort of to and fro as to allowing them in this manner, because as I said, I would only spawn in the same design, but it was designed to be a small air patrol utilising 3 of these and the slightly larger Condor. So here we're going to be facing a Tortuga, and I'm not taking any chances. I'm going to be sending in the 2 divisions, so the Brunhild and the Interceptor, and 2 divisions is going to be the main way we're going to be fighting these things. Good grief, look at the resources there. Our patchwork and a vanguard. 250,000 materials. Well, it's a good job they don't have fuel, isn't it? Anyway, let's go and engage this force with these two. I can pull that in with both of these. And that is essentially how I'm going to be utilising a lot of these designs, because without that sort of spawning in capability, we would actually, well, suffer a fair amount. So both these designs are going to be fairly high. Move that over to here, like so. Let's move that over there. The Gloom, of course, very, very close with its very, very imposing ram potential. The Trinity Interceptor is going to be close by. Shields of Starcraft and the Grenadier in these two locations, respectively. The difficulty, of course, being those array of Tweeties. Thankfully, we do have now ships to be able to cope with that. This one's probably going to get rammed very quickly. The Tortuga itself is decently powerful. It does have a good array of guns on it, but it's the Super Tweeties. I'm hoping that the improvements to the faculty and the Brunhild will be able to be enough to take these guys out before they wreak havoc with our entire fleet once more. Here come the Tweeties. The Tweeties did a lot of damage before to us. They annihilated our force, but this time we have the Gloom to take out the Tortuga on its own, and look at that damage. It is racking through, just pummeling the side of the hull, and every now and then it just rips off a huge chunk of the Tortuga there. And the Tortuga is just not having a chance. Unfortunately, as it rides up, our own vehicles shoot, and I believe some of the explosions, either from the internals or our own vehicles, actually destroy the rams on the end of those light blocks. So it still has these spinning light blocks, but it's just not doing the damage anymore. The faculty is just kind of hovering in midair because it's, well, having to load at the moment. It was only just been finished repairing, so it is now loaded up and now beginning to fire. But it's just now waiting for other things. So we've got the Grenadier moving around using its simple lasers against the Tortuga, and then also trying to fire various other targets. The Tweeties come in and bombard the Gloom, which is currently just sitting on top of the Tortuga there, and I believe the simple raft is damaged and destroyed behind that little hill there, but I do miss its ultimate destruction. And what we have here, though, is a huge array of Tweeties. And it seems that the faculty is shooting its own shields there. It looked like they were coming out a few meters and then exploding on the shield. So, not too sure what happened there, but yeah, that seems to be a thing. Now, we have the simple lasers coming from the Grenadier and the Brunhild, trying to take out all of these Tweeties, and Tweeties are really very annoying. They've got little bombs, and thankfully the Grenadier is able to avoid them. And yeah, we're just trying to wait for a single strike from some of these designs. Every now and then, that simple laser does strike, damaging a few blocks, but it's not destroying much. And there we go, to take a couple of hits, and then yeah, Brunhild is also firing both of its cannons and also not having any decent luck. Just seems to be there one or two times. The simple lasers strike and knock the Tweetie into the sea, eventually allowing the Brunhild, a stationary target, to annihilate with severe bombardment. Oh, the starter have died. The Grenadier took a big damage, as did the Interceptor. The Grenadier, though, did most of the work with its simple lasers, and it just goes to show how useful simple lasers are, because the Brunhild did eventually get hit, but that's a tier 2 design, whereas the Grenadier is a dirt cheap design with only a couple of hundred materials in laser weapon systems. Simple lasers are overpowered as hell. So just to give this a little bit of an idea, we're going to be sending the Condor and the Thunder Group against this target. This just allows us to, this whole division idea also allows me to really mix up the forces and just let us see other things in combat. So it's a nice idea. We are facing Felkheim and a lot of small planes, which is why I want to use the Aetioses and the Responder, because they have a very good anti-air against the Deepwater Guard. Well, they'd be decent against other factions, but the Deepwater Guard, a lot of air, is pretty weakly armoured. Then we have the Pocket Brawler and the Thunder, both with decent AA capabilities. The Beschultz, not so good, but does have, again, simple autocannons, very useful against Deepwater Guard, who have a lot of exposed actual deadly blades and balloons which can be shot out very, very easily. Yep, so a big proper air wing, a lot of things flying around, and we have the Thunder firing its big blue, light blue tracer there, showing how much a huge Hesh round does when it strikes into the side of a deep water craft, doing a really rather large amount of damage alongside the Beschultz both firing at Felkheim themselves. The designs are getting currently shot up by a combination of the Pocket Brawler and the group of Aetioses, firing and bombarding all the other designs. As you see, most of the balloons have already been knocked off these craft, and just little bits of blocks and winglets falling off all over the place, and this is really rather impressive. The Felkheim still getting completely hammered from pretty much all directions, and as true for most craft in From the Depths, doesn't take very fast falling. It's slowly sinking down into the sea and just being bombarded en route, and eventually it dips into the water and deploys its balloons to try and recover, but at this point it's already taking a colossal amount of damage from all sides, and some of those rounds are pretty large as it now disintegrates, leaving, well, I think that's a single monkey barrel remaining, being shot at by everything. That was worked out rather nicely. The patrol boat took a little bit damage, as did the Aetioses, but they work very well together. Then the Thunder, the Brawl, and the Beschultz, yep, they didn't half make a mess of that little group of forces, and it allows me to try out different things, which is much more interesting overall for myself, and I think for those of you watching. I am definitely liking this division's idea, though it does need a little bit of work to ensure that they work well as a group, and yeah, so we'll need a little bit of work, and that's something we can do as we progress. It should also allow us to actually get more forces into play at once. For example, I did add in a new group here, but yeah, they didn't actually have anything at all there. In fact, we're very low on materials all over the place, aren't we? I might have to, I don't want to do any exploits or anything. But yeah, it's got resources there. Also, so I suppose I could use this scanning thing, because that is essentially just like as if I just waited half an hour, but you know, I've only got a few points. Actually no, I'll finish up with the mechanic buffs first. I'll get these up to 50. So I've got the personal buffs, so yeah, I try and regenerate my health very, very quickly. And Stormtrooper 50, Brawler 100, and then yeah, work on mechanic, get this up to, I don't know, 50 or so, and then I can work actually on the seismic scanning. And that's going to be it for this episode, so thank you very much for watching this episode of From the Depths, Nother Neter with myself and a Diffin. If you did enjoy the episode, please leave a like and or comment below, as it is always great to hear from you lot. Also, be sure to check out the rest of my channel for more From the Depths videos and other games. And also, be sure to swing by the Discord channel for more interactive chatting and discussion more interactively as to how we go about and what sort of things should be changed or adjusted in this campaign, as well as being a perfect place to submit and discuss your own designs for inclusion in this Let's Play. Otherwise, that's going to be it for me for now, and I shall see you next time. But until then, I'm out. Goodbye!